Welcome, everyone. Today we have Quorum's Grassroots webinar on educating your advocates. My name is Ari Kanner. I'm a Grassroots Customer Success Manager here at Quorum. So I work with a number of our Grassroots clients, working with them on strategy and using our product. And today I'm joined by Amanda Cate. Amanda.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Cate. I am one of those Grassroots clients that works with Ari. I am the Associate Director of Political and Governmental Outreach at the American Society of Anesthesiologists. Been with ASA about 5 years. Before that, I was a press person on Capitol Hill.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So now we will go over our agenda for today's webinar. We'll start off with kind of going over the importance of a Grasstops network. Then next we'll get into kind of how to build one of those Grasstops networks. Then how you can really continue to develop these Grasstops advocates through education, specifically in this case, through learning modules. And then we'll go over kind of what the metrics of success is for a program of this nature. And then, of course, we will leave some time for Q&A at the end of this session. To send questions to us, please use the chat box in the bottom corner. A member of our team will be assisting us to make sure we have all the questions that you send, and then we'll answer them at the end of the webinar. So with that, we will get started here. So starting off, in terms of the importance of a Grasstops network, Amanda, ASA has a Grasstops advocacy program called ASA Team 535. Can you please tell us a little bit about the program and its main objectives?
Of course. So the name ASA Team 535 comes from the number 535. That's 100 senators and 435 in the House. Our goal is to create a strong personal relationship with each of those 535 elected officials and our physician membership. We want to have those reliable connections so that when important legislation arises, we can count on those Grasstops individuals to do that outreach. They usually take the lead, organize the other members that are in a similar geographic area as them, and are our first line of defense and best informed on our issues.
Awesome. So it sounds like the difference between these Grasstops people and your regular grassroots supporters is that they're especially informed and that they're leading the cause. Would you say that's a correct characterization, Amanda?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Awesome. And so what really spurred the creation of this program? What was what kind of initiated the thought to start this?
So this started back in 2017. We were looking to the new Congress that was going to be coming into town. And realizing that as Congress changes and members leave or new ones get created, we still have to have a continually rolling effort to get our physician membership educated and informed and engaged. So this is a way to help with that transition and help avoid that steep drop off every time we go through a change in Congress.
Got it. That makes sense. So with that being said, let's dig a little bit into kind of how you would build a program like this. So once you decided that this was something that you wanted to pursue, what channels did you use to identify potential Grasstops advocates?
So there were a lot of different ways that we got people to, we called it Join Team 535 or Join ASA Team 535. The easiest was the more traditional, the outreach to your advocates, whether that's emails or inclusion in newsletters. We also rely a lot on word of mouth, getting our members to talk about the importance of this at events, to their colleagues, when walking around at our meetings. And then, of course, doing things in person, as I mentioned, meetings. If we have a booth at one of our meetings, making sure there's the capability for someone to take action right away and join up. Even if they are someone who joins up and never takes any future action on ASA Team 535, there's still someone who in a moment decided that they were interested in advocacy, and that's a worthwhile characteristic for us.
Got it. So it sounds like it's a combination of both, in-person outreach as well as taking advantage of some of the digital tools available to you to really, expand your outreach in terms of who you're contacting and who you're, seeking to add to this program, but also really taking advantage of sort of those in the moment, see this person and getting them to sign up while they're still excited about the program. So, when you're reaching out to these people and interacting with them in person, what qualities were you looking for in terms of being a member of ASA Team 535?
It's really any interest in advocacy is important to us. We realize that there are some members who've had a personal connection with their lawmaker for a very long time. They may have gone to high school with them, or they've seen them every single year for 10 years in a row when they come to visit in DC. There are other members who are newer. They are just beginning their careers, or they're beginning to realize the importance of being involved in advocacy. For those individuals, important for us is to get them in the door, because we can train them through this program. We can provide them with the fundamentals that they need to then develop that relationship and learn about how the system works and to be a part of it.
Got it. So in terms of kind of gauging their interest areas or whether they're interested in the program, it sounds like it's really important that you explicitly ask them on that, and not just hope that they will come to you with their interests, but really making sure that you include it in your newsletter or include it in your sign-up form, so that you make sure that you're asking all of these potential members if they want to join. So in terms of kind of from their perspective, what motivates an advocate, on their side to join ASA Team 535?
So I think that a lot of what our members look for when interested in joining is that they want it to be an easy process. So we're making that as easy as we can. More and more in today's political environment, they're seeing the necessary reality that you have to be involved to be able to make change, and not everything can be done on a high level. That, and recognizing that those who are leaders in their field can't be leaders for forever. Some of our members who are physicians will retire, and there is a constant transition of new advocates coming into the space. So anyone who is involved politically or wants to safeguard the protection of their patients, this is an opportunity for them to take action. And we can make that as easy as possible. And that might not be that they join ASA Team 535 right away, but anything we can do to get them to just take a click or take any sort of action brings them into the fold, and we hope that that will later translate into more involvement.
That's a really important point there, Amanda, that just getting that foot in the door is oftentimes all it takes to start building an advocate or start building a Grasstops program. You don't have to have them commit to joining right away, but start getting them engaging on your emails or sign up for your newsletter is always a good start. And then before we kind of move into how your program specifically worked, I want to know a little bit about, what the advocates were responsible for once they joined Team 535. What are their expectations for commitment to the program, and what are their responsibilities?
Sure. It is definitely an ongoing sort of project. So the most obvious of these would be our modules. We have created these videos that walk advocates through the fundamentals through advanced of how to be engaged. In relation to these modules, they then take a quiz to test them, very easy quiz, on what they've learned. Hypothetically, once they've made it through a series of those modules, we then ask them to ensure that they've actually taken that knowledge and put it into action. So partially that would be sending a message to their lawmaker. Another action that we request is that they hold a meeting with their lawmaker, whether that's in DC or back in their district. That's sort of where we're at now. Where we hope this goes as it continues and more modules are created, at the end of the last module, we will ask them to do a one-on-one meeting over the phone or in person with a member of ASA's leadership team, either physician or staff, to gauge how they were successful, to sort of see which member of Congress that they were most successful in developing that relationship and where they want to go from there.
Got it. So it's not just having them go through the activities, but it's also measuring the success of that and trying to seek continual feedback so you can improve the program. So you kind of gave us a little preview there, but I'd like to hear a little bit more about the learning modules. So once someone registers, becomes a key contact in training, and joins Team 535, they go through a series of learning modules so that they can become a more effective advocate. Can you describe the idea behind the learning modules specifically?
Sure. So At the fundamentals, this is a step-by-step guide, starting at the very basics and the fundamentals of advocacy, which many of you, I'm sure, listening today are more familiar with. We may be in DC or interact with basis. For my membership, and probably a lot of others, this is not the case. My members are physicians, they're trained medical professionals, but the basics of Congress is not something that they're always interacting with on a daily basis. We wanted to have a way to take someone who knows how patient care and patient safety and walk them through how to be most effective when communicating with Congress, how to develop that relationship in a slow series that wasn't going to take a lot of time. I think our average module length is about 5 minutes. But still provided them with the information that they needed.
So as you can see on the board here, Amanda's learning module started off with an introduction to the federal government. In my exposure to a lot of our clients, I found that oftentimes you want to develop your advocates, you want to do some of these education programs that Amanda's talking about, but it does need to start with a basic fundamental understanding of how the governmental process works, how a bill gets passed into law, how a regulation is made. Oftentimes, it's important to step back and make sure that they have the background knowledge so that they can then apply their industry-specific knowledge and really push the issues more effectively. So one thing that I've kind of found helpful in that process is surveying your advocates to learn their knowledge in the first place. Finding out what their understanding is of the governmental process and how they are impacted by it. So in terms of when you went through this process and started making these learning modules, could you kind of take us through some of the tech you used and some of your thought process behind making these videos?
Sure. As I mentioned in the beginning, I come from Capitol Hill, and for those who are more experienced in working in the government, having a large budget isn't always something that we're blessed with. So I was trying to do this on a very cost-effective but efficient way. Almost none of the things that I'm going to mention are big cost requirements. So I came up with the idea of a PowerPoint. I'd create the slides and the related script. I would record it using an audio recorder and a timed PowerPoint recording. And then I use a free video editor to merge the two together. That part is fairly simple. It takes some time to get all the takes right and make sure I don't have any misspeaking examples in there. Then we post it online and we create all of the sign-up forms and the questions through Google Forms. So that's, again, an easy program to use to track our advocates. Just wanted to touch real quick. You mentioned that they need to have the fundamentals of how to take action. We, of course, do a lot of training specific to our topics, but we found that it's not as useful to train them about our advocacy topics if they then can't take that material and put it into action. Mm-hmm. So this was our attempt to give them that to reference whenever they might come across issues that they're having or questions or want to learn more.
Yeah, that seems like a kind of a really intuitive strategy to help bridge that gap and really get the most out of your advocates. So in terms of the learning modules, as we discussed earlier, it's hard to really kind of know where to start in terms of your education. So how did you land on these 5 topics specifically, the ones that you see on the screen?
So the 5 topics you see on the screen are where we've had the modules created so far. We have more that we're working on. I wish I could tell you that I knew exactly how many we were going to create overall, but it's a continually evolving process, and this has been met with very good reception from our members, so I expect that to continue. We wanted to have something that started again with the fundamentals, introduction to federal government, and worked its way through to more interaction. So the first 2 are very minimal in what they require from the member to actually take action. 3, 4, and 5 are increasing levels, as you can tell. Contacting your lawmaker or making a phone call or sending a letter takes a little bit less involvement than actually holding a meeting with your lawmaker. We are sort of building them up, building the confidence, and providing more skills until they got to that point. And going forward, it'll be a little bit more specialized types of outreach. But we wanted to have that soft cushion to transition them up there.
Right, makes sense. I mean, you're not going to want to have a first learning module. All right, this is how you meet with your lawmaker if they don't even know how the legislative process works. Got it. So in terms of how the advocates are interacting with your modules, how do you get folks who have registered to be key contacts in training to actually go through and do the learning modules?
And I'll fully admit that not everyone who signs up does go through and do the modules, but we do our best to ensure that they do. We use email personalization, which is always useful, both from sender that is a leader in our organization, as well as personalizing the to. This is done with each of the modules that they complete. So when they first sign up, they get the email that you see on the screen. When we've received notice that they've completed module 1 or 2 or 3, there are different variations of this emails personalized to that module to encourage them to take the next one. We try to include a few tips in there to make them actually read the emails. Here's what a lot of people got wrong on the quiz, or this is why it's important that you listen to this module. And of course, using that from, as I mentioned, this is a member of our leadership, someone who our members are going to recognize the name, respect the name, and want to respond to that email and open it in their inbox. So we're doing anything we can to increase the chances of them taking action. Some will do it all without opening an email. Some will ignore all of our emails. But if we can get a few people to actually take action, we'll call that a win.
Right. I mean, when you're talking about highly educated advocates who have the knowledge and the experience to really make a difference in this process, only having a few is so much more powerful than having nothing at all. So you don't need to expect massive numbers, massive participation. It's really just getting the program started and getting some people to buy in that gets you off the ground.
What's funny is that these emails are actually sent manually from our team. So we've had individuals who've completed module 2 and then will email us saying, I never got my email about module 3, which is great for us because that means that they're interested. But of course, it's a lot of staff time to go through and do that manually.
Right.
So I think that's a success.
Right. And you will notice here on the screen that the from at the top of the page is changed to be that the organization director in the state to kind of give that personalization. But then it also, you got to remember, put it in the signature at the bottom so that you're consistent with your branding here. You don't want to give yourself away that you're actually Amanda Cate posting as. Great. So as your key contacts are kind of going through the training here, and they make their way through the learning modules, so you said that you are sending them out emails once they've completed. Is there any other way that you're tracking this?
So we did come across a complication where we create the modules but have no way to know who watched them because of how they're posted. There's no sign-in required to watch a video. So what we did was created advocacy module questions. So there are 3 simple questions at the conclusion of each module, and really they are simple, and they're not graded. We provide them with the correct answer, but we don't deny them moving forward if they get it wrong. What's been interesting is that we've seen members who, when they take it and realize they got a question wrong, will go back and take it again to make sure that they're shown as getting it 100% correct in the system. Now, what's useful for us is that when they take that module questionnaire, they show up on our back end as having completed that. That lets us know it's time to send them the next email module.
Got it. That makes sense. It also definitely speaks to sort of their level of motivation and engagement in the program, that they themselves are wanting to correct their mistakes and make sure that they did it right. So for the next section here on actually activating this Grasstops network that you've been sort of cultivating here, how do you drive these people to go and then take action once you've sort of educated and prepared them?
So yes, definitely. In the modules, ASA Team 535, we're asking them to take a different kind of action. It's a guided action. It sort of gently prods them through the program, as I mentioned. What we really want is them to eventually take these other actions. So grassroots campaigns are the most basic. If we felt like we've prepared them well enough of how to use our Grassroots Network Action Center and how to send an email and personalize it, that's a good, easy way for us to start. As they've made their way through more and more of these modules, we feel more comfortable with these urgent and last-minute calls to action. If there are specific lawmakers or committees that we're targeting on the state or federal level, those are individuals we might turn to and ask them to do that personalized outreach. And then, of course, spreading the word. If they've had success with this program, if they've enjoyed this program, they can turn to their colleagues and get them to join. What is a better testament to how you're doing than having somebody else say it's a good job?
Right. Yeah, that's really amazing that you have been able to kind of make that conversion from educating and building up these advocates to then kind of getting the fruits of your labor and having them take action and having them make a difference. So this program is really fantastic, Amanda, and I'd love to kind of hear more about the results that you've seen so far.
Very positive results. And it has been a slow and steady in terms of our reaction from our members. So far, 530 individuals have signed up for ASA Team 535. Now, as I said, not everyone who signs up actually takes action. We've had about 33%, or a third of them, complete the first 3 modules in their respective quizzes. We do have follow-up emails that we send to them to try to re-engage them as time goes on. But more interestingly, we now have 77% coverage of members of Congress. That's 77% of 535 members who have at least some sort of developing relationship, if not full-blown relationship, with one of our members. And that's really critical for us.
Awesome. So thank you so much for sharing about the work that ASA is doing and this really interesting, innovative program. So now I'd like to open it up for questions from the audience so that we can hear about how they want to specifically relate this back to their programs. So we have a question here. How do you recruit people in districts or states when you don't get a response to basic outreach? So, I think what they're asking here is, when you send out the initial emails, trying to survey advocates or find who wants to join the program, and you don't get a response from certain areas, what's your next move in terms of trying to get people to sign up from there?
So we have a structure within the American Society of Anesthesiologists that we have a member of leadership from each state, very similar to how our Congress works. Mm-hmm. So there are some states where we've had issue. We have a key target lawmaker that we have not been able to identify a good relationship there. So what we then do is turn to that member of our leadership, internal leadership. So if you were from the state that you weren't able to find an advocate to join, we'd go to the leadership in that state, and 1, they should be joining, but 2, ask if they know someone. There's often things that are known on a state level that don't always get reported to the federal level, and we do rely on those leaders to provide us that assistance. And if they don't reply to me, we have physician leaders who will also do that outreach, because peer-to-peer can be more effective often.
Right, so it's taking advantage of your network and the structure that's already in place for you. So another question that we have here, are all of the Grasstops advocates constituents of the member they work with? So would you, for example, use someone who knew a member growing up but doesn't live in that district?
Yes, absolutely. And that's been something we have felt strongly about from the beginning. Not all of our members live in the same district, let alone same state. We have members who went to high school with a member of Congress, or were on the same baseball team in college. And those are all things that we track. When they join ASA Team 535, the obvious direction that they're going to take is having them connect with their actual representative and their senators. That being said, when they've developed that relationship, or if they already have one and report it to us, then we consider that separately in the system. So we do mark that in our system, and that is considered one of our Grasstops advocates.
Great. And just as a little plug here, of course, you can always survey the relationships your advocates have with their legislators via the relationship survey and quorum. Great. So how did you get ASA leadership buy-in, and what was the budget that you were provided with for this program?
It's a great question, and I'll be honest, this actually came from my leadership. This did not fully come from me. Our past president had a goal to develop those relationships, saw the importance of that coming off of one of our largest advocacy initiatives, and wanted to ensure we set ourselves up to continue in a good, strong place going forward. So it was asked of me to create a way to maintain, create, and develop those relationships. So that's where ASA Team 535 was born. I sort of took the overarching goal and put the bones beneath the goal. In terms of budget, as I mentioned, very low. So we bought a recorder a few years ago, actually, for one of our meetings. I think that was maybe a couple $100s or so. You can get a variety of levels for that. PowerPoint is, PowerPoint, which I think most of us use regularly. That's a free function within PowerPoint. And then the video editor. If mine wasn't free, it was a very, very low cost. That's all that's required. Otherwise, it's posting and hosting videos on your website, Google, which is free. That's one of the things that I really appreciate about this, is that we were able to do it so cost effectively. It would have been great if I could have gone to an outside consultant and had this professionally done and run and maintained, but this was something that worked for our organization. It's fast, it's adaptable, and it's personalizable for us.
Great, thank you for that. I'm sure that will help some people trying to start their own programs. On a similar note, what recommendations would you give to someone who would like to organize a similar program?
I think my recommendation would be twofold. Don't worry too much about the cost if you can get that startup equipment that you need, but also don't try and do everything at once. As I mentioned, I don't have all of my modules done. I think there were originally going to be 8. We currently have 5 or 6 and a couple more being developed, but I expect that number to increase. Our membership has responded so positively to this that I don't know that it will ever be completely finalized and done and a set number of modules, because things continue to change. A couple of years ago, I don't know that we would have talked about how to tweet at your senator, but as things adapt and texting becomes more important, there's more and more ways that our advocates need to learn how to take action and ways that we can teach them.
Right, and it sounds like you've built a pretty flexible program that is able to adapt, especially at the fairly reduced cost that you're using to kind of build this program, and be able to adapt to the new strategies and the new techniques that come along with all the modern tools and technology that we have. So another question from the audience here. They're asking if the relationships are focused only on members of Congress or also staff. And then is it only members dealing with your issues or all members?
That is a great question. I will start with the second part of that first. So we call them committees of jurisdiction. They are obviously our key targets, and I didn't put the statistics in the slides, but we do make sure that we have those as a higher percentage of relationships than all members of Congress. But we do focus on all 535 with the preference or priority or a strong need for those in committees of jurisdiction that fall within the healthcare scope usually. And then in terms of the first part of the question, staff. So that is something we track. We use Quorum for our relationship tool. We will add that into our relationship, that they have that tie with the staff, because if the staff does leave the office and move to a new one, that's something that's important to know. But we also keep it tied to the office. For instance, if they held a meeting in the district and they didn't actually get to meet with the lawmaker, they met with the staff, that counts towards them completing a step in this program. But it also is an important step for us just to know about advocacy, because as all of us know, the staff also are important to make relationships with and can influence a lot when it comes to legislation. But of course, we would prefer and we'd love to have those relationships with the lawmakers.
Awesome. That definitely makes sense here. So, thank you for everyone for taking the time to watch our webinar today and join us. Amanda, thank you so much for coming and sharing this with everyone. I want to just give a quick little shout out here to Quorum Grassroots. Quorum Grassroots helps you acquire, educate, and activate your advocates in one place so you can impact the issues that you care about. If you want to learn more about Quorum Grassroots and see how our system can help you apply the lessons that Amanda has shared today, then you can visit quorum.us/grassroots to request a demo. So that is the link that is shown right there on the screen. Anyone can access that to request a demo with our team. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us, and thank you, Amanda.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a good one.